and welcome to this edition of the Catholic Man Show. This is for all of our friends of the show out there. This is an exclusive content. Each month, Dave and I try to provide, at least once a month, some exclusive content for the friends of the show in Thanksgiving and appreciation for them. And what is a friend of the show, Father Brian? It is an individual who wants to up their game in manliness. That's what it is.
That's a noble cause.
That's a noble cause. What it is somebody who thinks that they appreciate the Catholic Man Show and what we're doing, and they donate at least $10 a month.
Nice.
And also keep us in their prayers. And so, in return, we send them a Glencairn Glass, that you know about.
Very nice. I've seen those online.
Yeah, and then we have special gifts, books, T-shirts, bumper stickers that we give away to them. And then once a month, we try to provide talks or just things that we don't normally give out to the public.
A little extra content.
Nice. Newsletter. And then also, if you're listening to this right now and you are a friend of the show, and you're not part of our private Facebook group, friend both Dave and I on Facebook, and then we'll get you in there. The friend of this private Facebook group is a lot of fun because we post some ideas on how to continue being a better man, husband, father, and then have some different drink reviews that we post on there. Just some fun stuff just to kind of communicate back and
Dr.
forth.
Pepper and such.
Dr. Pepper, exactly, yeah. Ginger ale.
Fanta.
Yeah, Fanta.
Pope Benedict's favorite drink.
That's Pope
Fanta
Benedict's?
Orange.
Really? I
Yep.
did not know that.
Little things you learn.
Yeah, see, you wouldn't have known this otherwise. So
Stick with me.
yeah, that's right. So last month, David did a great job of expanding on Jesus and the Jewish roots of the Eucharist. Great topic.
Beautiful book.
Beautiful book,
Dr. Brant Petrie.
Yep. And we did a show on that, but to try to compact such a rich, deep topic in an hour show is very tough. And so Dave expounded on that and kind of picked up where we left off on the show. This time, if you guys don't know, this is Father Brian O'Brien. He's the president of Bishop Kelly High School. He's a priest in the Diocese of Tulsa. And I wanted to sit down and talk to Father Brian because we hear all too often, Father, of parents who don't know what to do when their children break away from the faith.
Sure.
And so I thought it'd be good because you interact with high schoolers every day. You're strong in part of their formation at Bishop Kelly High School. And so I just wanted to kind of, we have kind of a brief outline on maybe some things that we can talk about to help parents in these situations.
Yeah, my adult life, starting at the age of 22, where I was a high school teacher, back in the Minahan Niles days, also known as the Golden Years.
The Golden Years.
Here at Bishop Kelly High School. It's really been downhill all since they graduated. But I was a high school teacher for 4 years. I taught theology. I taught some social studies, coached basketball. So I was involved in a lot of different areas of the school. Left teaching to go to the seminary. And really thought, of course, even as a parish priest, you're always around teenagers if you want to be. I mean, they're in every parish, they're there. But I did not think that my life would now be spent in and around teenagers. And so when Bishop Slattery appointed me right after ordination as the 3-day-a-week chaplain at Bishop Kelly, I thought that is awesome. So I was, I did retreats and heard lots of confessions and celebrated Mass all the time. And then, 2 years after that, he put me here full time. And certainly, a lot of my day is spent with teachers and adults and lots of things. But I carve out a big chunk of my day to be able to spend time with the students in a variety of ways, in their classrooms. I just had lunch actually with 4 girl juniors, 2 of whom are about to be confirmed.
Awesome.
And so one of them came up to me, this was yesterday, and she said, "Father, I need a confirmation name. I don't know what to do." And I said, "Let's have lunch."
So
I went out and got some Raising Canes, and
nice.
And we had lunch. And I think she's going to decide on Blessed Saint Kateri Tekakwitha.
Oh, wow. That's a great one.
So I think it was worth it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was worth the money.
Absolutely.
So yeah, no, I do. I know kids. I'm not an expert. Obviously, I don't have kids, but I've spent really
a lot of time.
Outside of my seminary years, I've spent 13 years of my adult life in and around teenagers.
And not only that, but you get the opportunity to talk to parents quite often.
Oh, definitely.
So that gives you more insights on here's what they're struggling with.
Sure.
And so it gives you opportunity to kind of take it from a lot of different angles.
Definitely. I know, yeah. And I grew up in a family too.
So that's, yeah.
Youngest of 5 kids. So that's really my primary sort of lens through which I look at things a lot of times.
Awesome. So let's get going. Here's my thoughts. I hear all the time that Catholic parents, either at parishes or something where you hear Catholic parents talk about, I raised my kids in Catholic schools. They went to Catholic schools for 12 years, and now they're not even practicing their faith.
Sure.
You hear that quite a bit. Well, what's wrong with that premise?
Yeah, I would say a couple things about that. Number one, that every kid is different. And again, I look at my own family. I'm the youngest of 5 kids. I'm a priest, and I have siblings that don't really practice their faith.
Mm-hmm.
So what it's so funny when people a lot of times at our parish right outside of Houston, they go up to my mom. Oh my gosh, you have a son who's a priest. Like, oh, your family, must. And my mom's like, whatever. Like, what are you talking? Like that every family is different. Every kid is different. And so I think there's a sense that from a parent perspective that you can just, raise them in this way, and that's the way they're going to be.
Like it's a cookie cutter. This is the model.
And it's just, and life is just is more interesting than that. It's a little messier than that.
Mm-hmm.
And so when people say, "Well, I raised them this way," think of how many people who were raised in one way and now are kind of acting in a different way. I mean, it's in some ways a natural part of life, and I know it's a frustration, and I'm not trying to downplay it at all. I mean, it's a real thing. But I think especially with regard to Catholic education, my experience has been there's kind of several different kinds of parents. There are some parents who send their kids to a Catholic school, but not for the Catholic part.
Mm-hmm.
They sort of tolerate the Catholic part on top of things. So there's good academics or fine arts or sports or whatever it may be that they're interested in. And we'll just do all the Catholic stuff just to kind of get through it.
Right, as a secondary.
On the other extreme would be, there are parents who are devoutly Catholic, thanks be to God, and they send their kids to a Catholic school, whether it be elementary school, high school, and even Catholic colleges would come into the mix too, and they know that they are, as the Church tells us, that parents are the primary educators of their children, and so they see their role. I am the primary educator of my child, and this Catholic school is going to help me do that.
Right, so the Catholic school's a supplement to
right,
right?
Right.
It's the parents that are in charge of catechizing their children.
Right.
The Catholic schools are just an added bonus or a supplement to that.
Yes, and then I think most parents are somewhere in the middle, and that is there is I think a sense among some that I've sent my kids to a Catholic school, and therefore everything they need to know, they're going to get it there.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get it in their theology class. They're going to get it in whatever, from campus ministry. They're going to get it. And really, I think that's a mistake. Simply because having now run a Catholic school for 8 years, we are limited. Mm-hmm. They're not taking theology all day.
Right.
They're not on retreats every weekend. And so there's only so much influence that a school, even the most Catholic of a Catholic school, can have. And Bishop Kelly, we're pretty Catholic, but we have some room to improve, without a doubt. But people with the expectation, I pay my tuition, I send my kid there, and now they don't go, and putting that all back on the school, I think is a mistake, simply because the school is limited. They're at school 8 hours a day. Mm-hmm. And they're not at school the other 16.
Right.
They're at school 180 school days a year. They're not at school for 185 school, days. And so the school has to be a supplement to what a Catholic family is teaching a child at home, both by word and by example.
So it's the typical Catholic principle of both and not either or.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, I think that, the kids... we talk a lot about vocations here and really encourage our students to think about their God-given vocation to marriage, priesthood, religious life. And we've had a lot of success there. We have, right now we have nine alumni who are in the seminary, which is eight times the national average, right? But for us to say those guys are in the seminary because of Bishop Kelly High School is wrong. Mm-hmm. They're in the seminary probably partially because of the experience they had here. Maybe they were around priests, that love what they do. They were able to learn some theology. But those guys are in the seminary, first and foremost, because God has called them there. Secondly, because they come, I'm thinking of the guys, they come from awesome, rock-solid Catholic families, who then also made the extra sacrifice to send them to a Catholic school to supplement that.
So let's talk a little bit about if parents, how important it is for parents to be on the same page. Growing up, you're going to be, sending your kids off to school. How important is it? We have a lot of, most of the friends of the show are men. So if you could talk to the men as far as like the importance of the male being the spiritual leader of the family, and how important it is to make sure that dad, mom, and all the siblings are all on the same page of this is our goal. We're trying to get to heaven, and this is how, as a family, we're going to.
Yeah, no, unity. I think unity within a family is tremendously important. I see a lot of families, both here at Bishop Kelly and other places, where the parents are not on the same page, and it leads to, at whatever age the child is, it leads to some confusion. Okay, mom says this, dad says this, or this is really important to mom, but that doesn't really seem that important to dad. I talked to a student a couple years back now, and the mom was devoutly Catholic, and this is the situation in a lot of families. So mom was daily mass, mom was always praying the rosary, mom was this really wonderful kind of Catholic example, and the father was a Catholic, but didn't go to mass on Sunday, was not a particularly strong example to his son. And so ultimately what the message to the son, without even saying anything, the message is there's two ways to live life. My mom seems very happy and my dad seems very happy. My mom goes to mass all the time, my dad doesn't go to mass, hardly ever. My mom gets up early and goes on Sunday, my dad sleeps in and watches football. And to that kid, both are kind of equally valid options.
Right.
What mom is doing is way more difficult. It's more time consuming. You have to give up other things. If you're even just to go to mass on Sunday, you're giving up that time where you could have slept, spent time with your family, watched football, all kinds of done your homework. You can do all kinds of things. But that in that case, so what that child saw was there's two ways, and this one seems way easier, which is to not really do anything with your faith. And I think that's all too common in a lot of Catholic families. And unfortunately, and I'm not bashing men by any means, but unfortunately, a lot of the times, it's mom and grandma who kind of run the religious side of things, and dad who does other things.
Right.
And it creates a real kind of dichotomy in the mind of a kid that either church is for females only, which of course it's not, it's for everybody, and that to my mom it's really important, but to my dad it's really not. And that message is going to sink in, and that message, if a kid is going to keep going to mass when they're older, is going to keep practicing their faith, it's going to be because they overcame that, not because they were given that good example.
Yeah, I think you're dead on. And it's interesting, prayer, it seems like prayer is a lot of times easier for the females. Like, it just seems like moms, grandmas gravitate towards prayer a lot easier than males.
I think that's correct.
But I think it's because, prayer is hard. It's not easy.
Yeah.
It takes discipline. It takes focus, commitment. And those virtues are important for especially younger males to see in their father. I think, JP2 said that his dad never really talked to him about the vocation to the priesthood, but he did see his father on his knees in the middle of the night praying in front of a crucifix.
And I think that's where men a lot of times think, well, I don't know my faith as well as I should. My kid asks me a question and I say, ask your mom, and that in one sense that's fine. But if to the men out there, if you think about, if your child were to follow you around for a week, what, from a religious standpoint, from the importance of your Catholic faith, at the end of the week, your kid gets to give you a grade, A, B, C, D, F. What grade would your child give you based on what you've done this week to grow in your faith. Would your child have seen you go to Mass? Would your child have seen you pray? Would your child have seen you pray with your spouse? Would your child have seen you open up the scriptures? Would your child have seen you maybe watch some religious programming? Would your child have seen you listen to the Catholic Man Show? Would your child, would your kid have seen you practicing your faith? Would they have seen you in the way that you interact with people at work, in the way that you interact, especially with your kids around, in the way you interact with the poor, in the way you interact with women? How do you treat women? All of those things come together, and kids, they see it.
Right.
They
That's a real gut check, right?
And so when JP2, would talk about, okay, no, sure, my dad never talked to me about the priesthood, but his dad showed him how to pray by praying.
Right.
And it didn't take a lot of instruction. It took the dad doing it and the son being around to see it.
Absolutely. We're going to continue this conversation, but we're going to cut off the video.
Oh, man.
So if you want to continue, we have look, we have a lot more that we're going to go over. If you want to continue listening to our conversation about how to keep your kid Catholic, go to breadboxmedia.com, type in, or there's a little tab that says friend of the show, and donate $5 or $10 a month.
Come on, do it.
Come on, it's not that much.
What's your problem? Be a man.
That's right. And you'll get the rest of this. So check us out. And we're also on Thursdays at 7 p.m., The Catholic Man Show, on St. Michael Catholic Radio. And actually more than that now. We're in Louisiana. And
I heard.
So anyway.
Yeah, I listen every week. Friday mornings. Every Friday morning.
Podcast it.
I get up early and then it's not there. Like 5 o'clock on a Friday morning, I'm ticked off.
It's like, what are these guys doing?
I sometimes have to wait until Saturday. It's terrible.
But check us out. Cheers to Jesus. We're on the Lord's team, the winning side. So raise your glass.
Bless.
So we'll do that.
You're in my office. This is fun.
Yeah, this is going to be sweet.
I'm gonna make sure I don't have anything like...
Yeah, you don't have any, like, Bishop McGinnis stuff in here, do you?
That would be bad. Very, very bad.
Okay.